We're going to continue working on characters for the next few lessons, but for this lesson, I'll go through again what we've done. We'll be working in our English OneNote, our class OneNote, so every student task you will see in that OneNote. Okay, to remind you, our learning objectives is to understand what characterization is, what it means, how it's done, and how it's applied in writing. A reminder that characters in text are developed through what they say and do, and the language used to describe them, and so dialogue, description, and action. We looked at this, the characters, straight description of them, their speech or dialogue or their thoughts, or through a description of their actions. So again, we're looking at them through their description, their dialogue, and their action. We make inferences. We decide on who they are, not just by direct description, but by what we perceive in the talk and the descriptions. We looked at this, so examine what characters' texts are like. What are they like? How do you know it? Always, how do you know it? Why do you say that they're this way or that way? What do the characters say? How are they described? How are they seen by the other characters? What do the other characters do around them? And what happens to them at the end of the story? How is that character developed? What pathways has it gone down? Now, the first thing I want you to do is just a simple matching up. So in your OneNote, you can see that there is, you can draw an arrow across. Which of these descriptions best describes the device? So a description is what a character says, what a character does, or how a character looks and feels and behaves. What is dialogue? Is it what a character says? Is it what a character does? Is it how a character looks? And action. Which one of those descriptions fits action? So the correct definitions with the terms. And then, if you can, try and find down an example of each. So if we wanted an example, what a character says, you could use the bit where it says, "Don't worry, I'm not going to shoot you," bit of other dialogue. "This is for yellow-spotted lizards. I wouldn't waste a bullet on you." Now, you probably all know who said that, but that gives you a definite impression of the sort of person Mr. Sir was. As we know, it was Mr. Sir. So I want you to see if you can find an example of a description of some dialogue and some action that actually helps you get a better understanding of a character. Then I want you to also, because there are so many characters in wholes, I want you to make a bit of a mind map to get it clear in your head how some of these characters are linked together. So I want you to pick at least 5 of the characters. You can pick more. I want you to write down their names in the circle or whatever shape, and then 3 words that you would use to describe each character, and then put links in to show how they link to each other, and then a word or two describing why those links are there. So there's a little example here. I've done one myself. Okay, so Stanley Yelnats is the, of course, main person, so the brain protagonist, he's in the centre. And then I've got listed a few other people around Stanley and how they are linked to him or how they link to him. Now, if you can see, Zero and Stanley are friends, so I put them down as a double arrow. So I've got Zero, I've got 3 descriptions of him. Stanley, I haven't finished, I've only got 2, but you can figure that one out yourself. And they're both friends, so it's an equal sort of connection. The warden, I've got a couple of descriptions of her. And Stanley is her prisoner, so the arrow, he goes to her, so a prisoner of the warden. Zero is also a prisoner of the warden. Then I've got someone like Madame Zeroni, and a description of her. She was an ancestor of Zero, so she is Zero's ancestor. So that's how she links to Zero, and so on. So hopefully you get a feel for what I want you to do. So you have to pick at least 5 characters, and I would say you'd have to have Stanley in the middle because he's the one that links everybody one way or another. And then put in something like this, how they link together. Now, I haven't finished this, of course. I haven't put how Trout Walker and the Warden are related, which they are. Catherine Barlow, the relationship between Catherine Barlow and Trout. Sam and Stanley, Sam and Trout, Sam and Catherine, etc. So you're going to make one of these. You may use, you may just draw it on your OneNote page using the shapes that you can get from OneNote. You can use Inspiration, or you can use something like Bubbleless, and then you just take a screen clipping and paste it into your page. Okay, I want you to now look at in depth on a few more characters. So here's just an example of one done by a primary school student, a picture in the middle, something about physical appearance, personality traits, which you know, relationship to others, and important quotations. The one I want you to work on is this. So you've got this in your OneNote page. It asks for you to give character traits. It asks you to do character's role. It asks for some quotes. It asks for a number of things. So you fill them in around this table. You put the character in the middle. You can put an image in there if you'd like. I do not want you to do Stanley for this one. I want you to do someone other than Stanley. You've already done a bit of a character trait of Stanley. You did that last Friday. So I've put in the list of character traits there to remind you. But, of course, there are many more. So this here is another task of yours. You're going to do a list of character traits for a particular character. You can do Mr. Sir, you can do Catherine Barlow, whoever. Then 2 more characters, not the one that you did the template for, but 2 more. You can choose Stanley in this one, Mr. Sir, X-Ray 0, as long as you didn't choose them on your template. And I want you to see if you can answer these questions about that character. So how does the warden relate to others in the book? What is the character's personality like, using the character traits or others? What do you think the character's biggest fear is? What do you think the character, what other issues or concerns does that character have? Are you and the character alike at all? Or how are you different? Has this character changed since the beginning of the story? Does the character change, modify their behaviours, become better, become worse? What do you wish you knew about this character? And if you were doing casting this character in a movie of the story, who would you cast? I know there's been a movie made, but who would you put into playing, say, the warden? So I want you to answer. There are 7 questions here. Try and answer at least 5 of these, if not all of them, for 2 separate people. So 2 more characters. So now you'll have Stanley, you'll have a template and a character analysis in depth of another character, and then 2 more here. So now you should have 4 different characters that you've got quite a handle on, which will help you when we're doing our assessment task. Okay, some of the things that you have been saying about your characters might have been inferred, which means that you've read something into the text, even if it wasn't fully described, you've got a picture of that person. So you're going to do some task text analysis to try and work out exactly how or what you gathered from the text. So you're going to look at dialogue, description and action for some pieces of text, and you're going to annotate what each of these examples say about a character, and why has Louis Sachar used this technique, and if it was an effective technique. So I will show you what I mean by that. That's some more description of what you're going to do. So you're going to examine some of the text from chapter 4. You are going to, I want you to choose 2 extracts. I've given you 6, so you're going to choose 2 of them, and you're going to highlight whether it's dialogue, description or action, and then write down some explanation about your decisions. So I want you to analyse the methods Sachar used to create his character. I want you to evaluate the effectiveness of those methods and present your findings perhaps when we get back next week. and the whole class might discuss what we think about our characters. So here's an example of text. So what I've got here, a man was sitting with his feet up on the desk. He turned his head when Stanley and the guard entered, but otherwise didn't move. Now that is some of the text. Sitting with his feet up on the desk, turning his head and didn't move, they're all actions. There's not any dialogue in there, there's not any description, just some action. And we know this is Mr. Sir. So he sits up with his, to me, he sits up with his feet on the desk, which suggests that he's the one in charge. He's got the power. Also, he doesn't move, which means he doesn't care what other people think or the rules or common manners. He leaves them up there. He doesn't rush to remove them when the people come in. And so that's a description of why what I think this says about the character, Mr. Sir, and the effectiveness. I think he used the actions here to build up a picture in the person's mind of someone who thinks he's a bit cool, someone who's very self-assured and thinks highly of themselves. I do think it's effective because it provides a character snapshot of a man who you probably have to be a bit careful around, who doesn't care what others think and doesn't apologise for his actions and probably does what he wants, which I haven't got there. So there is the text. I've highlighted that it's an action, and then put down what he did and how effective it was. Extract number 1, Mr. Sir. Here's another one. That's a lot of flower seeds, the bus guard said. Stanley noticed a burlap sack filled with sunflower seeds on the floor next to the sack. I quit smoking last month, said the man in the cowboy hat. He had a tattoo of a rattlesnake on his arm, and he signed his name. And as he signed his name, the rattlesnake seemed to wiggle. I used to smoke a pack a day. Now I eat a sack of these a week. So we've got dialogue in here. We've got action. Sorry, we've got dialogue. We've got description. So dialogue here, dialogue here. Here's some description that I think tells us a bit about the person. You might even say description, if you wanted to, you might include the cowboy hat. But that to me doesn't tell me much about the person. So what is this I would write down here what the dialogue is saying about the character and what this description says about the character. So I've partly done it here for you. Next is the character of Zero. There's an extract here from Zero. An extract about X-ray. An extract that tells us something about Mr. Pendanski. Oh, that's not 4, that's 5. So Armpit, and then Derek Dunn. So you've got Derek Dunn, Armpit, Pendanski, X-ray, Zero, and Mr. Sir. So this, choose 2 of these and see if you can analyse these bit of text to see what happens about those, what it tells us about those characters. Now we will be going on with this, some more character stuff this week. Try and finish, if you can, get down to this template, and if you can, get started on the text analysis. We are going to do some more character work tomorrow, and I need you to have finished at least this text analysis, but we do have the whole week to work on characters, so you may get a little time to complete these tasks. Okay, good luck, boys.